Blog Talk Radio.
What's up, college football fans, and welcome to another edition of Quick Slants, the show where we talk nothing but college football, brought to you, of course, by War Room Sports. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Dev McMillan, but I'm here with the star of the show. We got Fred Perdue in the building. What up, Fred?
What's going on, man? After a bit of a hiatus, man, it's bowl season.
Yes, it is. It is bowl season, and that's what we're going to do for you guys on this episode. We're going to talk about some of the bowls going down in the next week. We will be back at you next week before we get into the big, the big bowls, the ones that everybody's waiting for, especially the college football playoff bowls in particular. But we're going to give you some bowls now up until about mid next week, and then we'll be right back at you with another show then to continue and close out bowl season. But right now, man, let's get into some topics before we get into some of these games, man. Notre Dame head coach Brian Kelly has been named AP Coach of the Year. Do you think they made the right call on this one?
Yeah, I do. Seeing what he's been through in the last few years, I mean, it seems like forever ago, since 2012, when they went to a national championship, and they got blown out by Alabama. There's no which way around it. But since then, you've seen this team kind of go up and down. But now hiring an offensive coordinator, getting better in recruiting, you've gotten over the Everett Golson stuff from years ago where the academic stuff is gone. Notre Dame is back to playing football, and this is what a really good Notre Dame team can look like because they recruit nationally, and they're going down south to get the really good top recruits. So this is what I expect from Brian Kelly, and I don't expect him to go anywhere for a while. Notre Dame is a great thing for college football. It's kind of like when the Lakers are good in basketball, kind of like how when Cowboys, I hate to say it, but when the Cowboys are good in the NFL, college football is a little bit better with Notre Dame, even though I can't stand the little green people that live up there.
All right, so you think that was a good call? It was interesting when it came down. It being one of the teams actually in the college football playoffs made it that much more understandable. But Notre Dame, like you said, like they're what you call a blue blood in this college football thing. So it is better overall when those type of teams are good and in the mix. We can add your team to that as well. When the Miami Hurricanes are rocking, college football is rocking. So y'all got to get back in that mix, man. I thought y'all were on the right track, and then this season didn't quite go the way at least I expected it to go. So we got to get back on that track.
Doesn't help. Yeah, and it doesn't help when you lose your defensive coordinator. I hope you guys enjoy him up at Temple. Is it going to be the turnover steak now? I mean, what's really happening? Because no more turnover steak possibly in Miami.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go over to the West Coast for a minute. Oregon has landed defensive end Kayvon Thibodeau, who is the number one ranked prospect in the class of 2019. He committed to Oregon on Saturday. His final three was Oregon, Alabama. His final four was Oregon, Alabama, Florida, and Florida State. So it's quite interesting to see a defensive player, a defensive end, a number one ranked prospect in 2018 pick Oregon over the likes of Alabama, most surprisingly. So what are your thoughts on this?
Number one, and a lot of fans are not going to like this one, I want to know how much Mario Cristobal dropped at this man's house. How many houses, car? If he's driving around in a new car, you know why. If he has an off-campus apartment as a freshman, you know why. If he has a new rollie on, he has I mean, he's going to have Jordans and stuff because it's Oregon, so that's a little bit of a different story. But, and, they get the swag when they're there. But, anything new and really expensive that doesn't fit a college athlete's budget is part of that bag. Because not only did they secure him, but they secured other top recruits, and they have a really good class this year. But in all seriousness, Kayvon Thibodeau is he's the same number one recruit from the beginning of the year that fans actually thought he'd be going to FAMU, and I never understood that. Realistically, he's not going there. Realistically, sorry, but you HBCU guys understand this is major college football, and no disrespect to those teams, but most fans that watch major Division I college football, they only go to your games for the band. We watch the major schools for the football. No disrespect, but he was never going to FAMU. He came for the partying for about a nice weekend, but he parties at FAMU. He would have played football at Florida State had he chosen Florida State. But very good player.
He said his visit to Florida A&M was to tour the university's archives that focus on African Americans' contributions to things like politics, science, education, stuff like that. He says that he took a unique approach to his recruitment, and he tried to make the most out of each visit and get things. He tried to go see things that really didn't have anything to do with the football program. So when he went to Alabama, they said he took time out to see the 16th Street Baptist Church. That was a church bombed by the Ku Klux Klan in the 60s. Like I said, in Tallahassee, when he went to FAM, he visited the archives. The funny part is, if this was things that was important to him, then how the hell did you come up with Oregon? What I mean?
Exactly. Nike, Jordan, Nike.
Right,
Jordan.
he must have went to the Nike factory or something.
Yeah. I mean, and even with Nike's in Beaverton, not Eugene, but Phil Knight is in charge, is the guy. So, I mean, like I said at the beginning of this whole thing, how much? Well, I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble, but how much was in that bag that was dropped off at his mom's place of residence? Because there's no possible way that a West Coast kid, number one player in the country, 6'4.5", 240 pounds defensive lineman, and this is what you're seeing every year coming out of high school. These top linemen or top quarterbacks are the ones coming out being those top picks. How does a West Coast kid from California, one of the top schools in California, end up at Oregon? Not USC, not UCLA, heck, not Cal, not Arizona State, not Texas, Ohio State, not Alabama. You spurned Alabama to go Oregon, where they aren't even all that great. They haven't been great since Chip Kelly took them to a national title against Auburn years and years ago. Not trying to get nobody in trouble.
All right, so here's some news right here. The nation's number 2 overall prospect in the 2018 class, Justin Fields, he has been officially listed in the NCAA student-athlete transfer portal, which means he can now be recruited by other programs. He's trying to get the hell out of Georgia. What's up with this?
Talking to some people throughout this situation, this one, when I saw this go across come to my phone, I said, what in the world are you doing? The same question I asked when he signed the letter of intent, when he even listed them as an interest. What are you doing? You're going to commit to a school that has a true freshman quarterback in Jake Fromm, who pushed out the old true freshman quarterback, number 1 overall prospect, pushed him out, took his team to a national championship, came down to about maybe, 2 possessions, maybe? Not really. And then turns around and takes his team to a 2-loss, 11-2 season, 10-2 season, and takes his team to an SEC title game in which they were in the same situation that they were in the national championship and came up just short. And yet you had a chance to get on the field, but it's like these kids, and it's not just him. I experienced it when I was in high school too. One of my classmates ended up he was one of the top athletes in the state, and he ended up, like, ESPN came to the school and everything, and he announced his pick, and he went to the popular school, which was Florida at the time when Tim Tebow was there. I'm showing my age a little bit here, but when you go to the popular school, are you not looking at the depth chart? Did you not see that there was a first-round pick and All-American and all of that great stuff? You didn't see that he was in front of you and you'd have to wait at least 2 years minimum, even if you redshirted? Because if you really look at the history at Georgia, every one of their quarterbacks not named Matthew Stafford has, at least in the last 20 years, has stayed all 4 years. Whether it was DJ Shockley, whether it was David Green, whether it was Joe Cox, who only played for 1 year but was there for 4 after Matthew Stafford, whether it was Aaron Murray, who Jake Fromm is a very similar comparison to. They've all stayed for 4 years. Justin Fields has been considered baby Cam. That's everything I've seen from his film to his fans. He looks like Cam Newton. But the difference is these kids now is, can I beat this guy out? If not, I'm a transfer. And Ohio State is the prime destination for Mr. Fields right now, because especially if Dwayne Haskins leaves. Because if Dwayne Haskins leaves, it leaves a wide open space for him to go in and secure that job. Other probably potential places could be Florida. At least if you want to win now, Florida. USC could possibly be a place. I don't think he fits what they want to do. Oklahoma has Kyler Murray, who's not coming back, but Spencer Rattler is the number 1 quarterback prospect. You have a lot of different options. Even Texas would be a bit of a stretch, seeing as they have 2 quarterbacks there in Sam Ehlinger and Shane Buechele, who Ehlinger seems like he's the guy there. But if you're talking prime prospects, Oregon could be a place as well, because if Justin Herbert leaves and goes on to the NFL, it would leave a wide open spot there. But this was a head scratcher in the beginning, and if Ohio State if they're the rumored school with the biggest chance of landing him, they didn't even recruit him with him being the number 2 overall prospect, because they had good old Tate Martell, which tells you how they feel about good old Tate. You know, that for a backup quarterback who has all the clout in the world on social media.
Yeah, I mean, he's had that clout since high school, though. That's his thing. Big Tate, I want to see him get on the field, though. I'm really interested in seeing that. All right, so let's get into this Pick'em segment. And, of course, since it's bowl season this week, the Pick'em will be nothing but bowl games. There's nothing else being played. So we're going to start out with, because, Fred, you know how I feel about bowl season, man. There's like 80 million bowls. There's a bowl for everything. So there's no way we're going to talk about each and every one of these bowls, because some of these teams are just not important. Let's start this out with, let's go to the Bahamas Bowl, Toledo versus FIU. You got any thoughts on that one?
I do. I got to see both of these teams this year. Miami played both of them. Toledo was a bit of a better team last year than they were this year. Bit of a running. Quarterback Logan Woodside left and went on to the NFL. He's with the Bengals now, but they still have a bit of a potent attack. What I will say about FIU, and we didn't get into this one, but FIU, they're doing Butch Davis things by having players on their roster who had warrants out for their arrest for a year. That's never good, especially going into bowl games. Those are Butch Davis things, leaving teams with bad reputation, starting a bad reputation and culture. But that's nonetheless. In this one, I'm taking Toledo in this one. For me, when I look at it, I look at the pace at which they run their offense. Those guys, they play at that breakneck Oregon, Clemson type speed, and they have speed on the perimeter. The quarterback's not a big time down the field thrower, but they spread you out sideline to sideline. And they use a lot of misdirection, which I think is going to give FIU a lot of problems. FIU has the speed on the perimeter on defense, but they're soft up the middle. This will be a nice matchup.
All right, so let's go to December 22nd, the Birmingham Bowl, Wake Forest versus Memphis.
Memphis has given me two really good iterations of itself. The first, Memphis UCF 1 and Memphis UCF 2. Both were losses. Both were deserved losses. How do you let a running back have over 180 yards on 6 carries with 3 touchdowns and you still lose? With that being said, I think Memphis is going to win this game. They have a really bad taste in their mouth after losing their conference championship game. They know they should have won.
All right, December 22nd in Fort Worth, Texas, we have the Armed Forces Bowl. It's Army at 9-2 versus Houston at 8-4.
Believe it or not, this is going to surprise you, but I'm taking Army in this one. Army this isn't your grandfather's Army team where they just don't put up any points. They run. They don't have a very explosive offense. No. This game is going to be controlled at the line of scrimmage. They're going to be able to they're going to be able to run the football down the throat of this Houston team, especially without Ed Oliver, who's been ready to get out of Dodge for the longest. He's not participating in this ball game as he shouldn't. Give me Army in this one.
All right, December 22nd as well in Mobile, Alabama. We got the Dollar General Bowl. They even got bowls for the damn dollar store. Buffalo at 10-3 versus Troy at 9-3. This
one actually features a quarterback that has a chance at making some mid to late round noise in the NFL draft come April. Or I'm sorry, I still can't get over this thing. It's May now. Can we do something about this? NFL, do something, please. But Tyree Jackson, quarterback at Buffalo, big 6'5", 6'6" kid. He's not the most polished passer in the world, but for a college quarterback, he's done more than enough. If you watch the game, he'll remind you a lot of Cam Newton based off size, based on the arm. He's not Cam Newton, but he can do a lot of the things Cam Newton did at the college level. In this one, Troy has a very explosive offense, but I don't think they'll be able to keep up with what Buffalo has been able to do all season long. It's going to be a close game. Give me Buffalo.
All right, let's take it over to the islands of Hawaii. December 22nd, the Hawaii Bowl. We got Hawaii at 8-5 versus Louisiana Tech at 7-5.
Hawaii kind of got me real amped up to watch them a few times this year, and especially knowing that the offense has gone back to the old school run and shoot offense, but now they've added a little bit of the college flavor, the zone read, the RPOs, all the fun stuff that you see in college football throughout the country. They've added it in. So, but from what I've seen with this team, they started off hot early and tailed off. Louisiana Tech's a very good team. They're a very, very well coached team. I want to see what this Hawaii team is made of, especially being at home. I'm gonna take Louisiana Tech in this one. I hope those guys, I hope all the players enjoy a nice Hawaiian vacation.
No doubt. Let's go to December 26th, Dallas, Texas, the First Responder Bowl featuring Boston College at 7-5 versus Boise State at 10-3.
Boise State, how many times do we say this team is just better than advertised? Brett Rippon is in this one. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the country, and the one thing about him is he doesn't make mistakes like pretty much every other Boise State quarterback. I love what I've seen from him all year long. He's just accurate. He will slice you. He will slice and dice you. Monster at receiver also is one of those guys that whenever he's open, he does whatever he has to do. This Boise State defense is going to be able to hold down this Boston College team who offensively, they're so limited. They don't throw the ball well, but I think that's an Adazio thing. They just want to be a physical, run the football type of team, hit you hard in a smash mouth team. I think Boise State's a little bit better. Give me Boise State.
All right. So, Quick Lane Bowl in Detroit, Michigan, December 26th. Minnesota at 6-6 versus Georgia Tech at 7-5.
This game is going to be Paul Johnson's swan song. He's gonna. This is it. This is it for him, and I hope his players send him out on a win. Just for memory's sake, give me Georgia Tech.
All right. Let's see. We got the Cheez-It Bowl in Phoenix, Arizona, also December 26th. It's a damn shame. TCU 6-6 versus Cal at 7-5.
Justin Wilcox this is going to be this game is going to be one of the better matchups across all bowl games. Justin Wilcox just keeps he's building here at Cal. Very well coached team, very good staff there. TCU had a bit of a down year. They started off hot early. They had a very, very, very competitive game against Ohio State early. We thought maybe they would be a bit better, but they've had that down year. They just need to. The recruiting will get better there. I think Cal will win this game. It's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be a lot of ugly football early because these teams have had a bit of time off, which is never good for any football team to have 2-3 weeks off by the time they play their bowl game. But Cal, this is the beginning of when you play your bowl games, you can get experience because of this redshirt rule. But also, this is to get you jump-started into 2019. So give me Cal to get you jump-started and maybe kind of get some momentum rolling into 2019.
All right. We're going to do the 3 bowls on December 27th before we call it a show. So first up, the Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana. That's Temple at 8-4 versus Duke at 7-5.
I want Duke to win this game simply because Temple gave Miami. You know how in the NBA you always say terrible trades? Well, and there's one team that always just finesses somebody off of another team. Well, this happened with Temple and Miami. Well, Temple gave Miami Al Golden, and Miami gave Temple Manny Diaz. For these reasons, I need Daniel Jones and that Duke offense to rip these dudes to shreds. Thanks, Duke.
All right. Also, December 27th, the Pinstripe Bowl in New York. You got your guys from down Miami, 7-5 versus Wisconsin, also at 7-5.
This is a rematch of last year's Orange Bowl game, and I think both of these teams are very similar to the last year's iteration. You still have Jonathan Taylor, who was just a beast of a running back, led the country in rushing yardage. Second in the country in rushing yardage. One of the things that I love about this Wisconsin team is that they can run the football on anyone. The one thing I don't like about this team is they can't throw the football. Defensively, they're just not the same team. This game's going to be in New York, and these Hurricanes, you're going to probably see a lot of N'Kosi Perry. You're going to see stubborn Mark Richt not changing up the play calls despite having the true spread elements of this new offense that he wants to try to implement not being used. You're going to see two co-defensive coordinators, Ephraim Banda and Pakia, also at the outside linebackers coach. Those two will be tag teaming this whole defensive coordinator thing since they're not going to go out and get a real defensive coordinator to replace Manny Diaz. All decisions that make me question Mark Richt's head coaching position right now. You lose Gerald Willis, who led the country in tackles for loss with 18, more than all 4 Clemson defensive linemen combined. Just got to put that out there. He won't be playing in this game. He'll be preparing for the NFL like a lot of other top players. This game's in New York. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy. It might rain a little. Might see a little bit of that. Prime conditions for a Wisconsin team to lay the smack it down on my Miami Hurricanes. Give me the Badgers to win this one.
All right, and last but not least for this episode, the Texas Bowl. It's in Houston, Texas, and it's featuring Baylor at 6-6 versus Vanderbilt, also at 6-6.
Vanderbilt has had a pretty not so great run with Derek Mason, who came over from Stanford years ago once Jim Harbaugh left. Things haven't been, they're a physical bunch, but they're also in the SEC. If they were in another conference, they might have a chance of being a little bit better. Baylor's still rebuilding with Matt Rhule, who decided to come from Temple a couple years ago. This one's going to be one of those contrasting styles kind of things. Baylor's going to want to swing it around the yard while Vanderbilt is going to want to play smash mouth football. I think it lends its hand to Baylor with the spread wide open system. I think Baylor's going to win this one close. It's always something weird that happens in a bowl game. Because you never know who's just rusty. Which team is really rusty and which team has been practicing. Some guys just go for the trip and don't really care. So especially a lot of the seniors, they a lot of times they don't care. They're moving on to the NFL anyway. So that's one of the things that really kind of, bowl games are so unpredictable.
All right, so there you have it. That is our bowl pick'em for the week. Like I said earlier in the show, guys, make sure next week during Christmas week, we're going to be right back at you. And we're going to finish it off and do all the bowls that are going to be played from December 28th to, of course, the New Year's Day bowls on to the semifinal and the championship round of the college football playoffs. So just make sure you keep it locked here. But if you want to catch archive episodes of our show, make sure you go to warroomsports.com, or you can go directly to the War Room Sports YouTube page. Just click on that Quick Slants icon, and you can get all the episodes of Quick Slants that you want. So if you're a football fanatic, this is the show for you. Go ahead and do that and listen to everything that Fred has talked about all season long. Up until this particular episode, but we will be back with you guys next week. Fred, what you're going to be doing and where you're going to be during this weekend's games?
You can check me out on Twitter, Fred Purdue CFB. I'll be checking out a lot of these bowl games. A lot of these games are the fan bases the bigger name schools have not gotten into this thing called bowl season yet. Just a lot of, and at this point, we're getting closer to signing day, so the news is few and far between. But trust me, folks, it's going to ramp up in a little bit. But until then, just keep up with me on Twitter, Fred Purdue CFB.
All right, and you can check out everything we're doing at warroomsports.com, at War Room Sports on Twitter, the War Room Sports Facebook page. Just go there by searching War Room Sports on Facebook. We are everywhere. So make sure you're tuned into what we're doing during these games. This should be a very interesting bowl season. And like we always tell you guys, when we're about to sign out, please, please, please don't accept mediocrity and be steadfast in the war against ignorance. We'll see you chumps on top. Peace.
Are y'all finished or y'all done? I ain't got no more talking.